not forgetting that one brother and our sisters too have the power to change our lives. Father, let us not forget the purpose of our journey within this mighty house. Should we have sinned throughout our travels, we ask you for forgiveness, as we take note that sometimes we unfortunately make mistakes, only to learn and become a better person. We ask you to look upon us with your guidance to ensure that we put the right foot forward as our journey continues. Amen. The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name.
Thy kingdom comes, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive them who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and glory, forever and ever. Amen. Honorable members, I wish to acknowledge the presence of grade 7 students from Philip Arabi Primary School, Gerehu, National Capital District, on the public gallery. On behalf of the Parliament, I extend the visitors a warm welcome to Parliament. Clerk, any petitions? Notices? Clerk.
The Minister for Health gives notice that he shall present a bill for an act to amend the Provincial Health Authorities Act 1997 to provide for accountability and compliance by the Provincial Health Authorities and for related purposes. The Minister for Health gives notice that he shall present a bill for an act to amend the National Health Administration Act 1997 and for related purposes. The Minister for Health gives notice that he shall present a bill for an act to A, promote and safeguard the health and nutrition of infants and young children, and B, reduce and prevent malnutrition in infants and young children, and C, develop or adapt standards for feeding products, and D, regulate the dealers of commercially available complementary food and feeding products, and E, repeal the Baby Feed Supplies Control Act 1977, Chapter 365.
Honorable members, question time. The Honorable Member for Wawaria.
Thank you, Speaker. Looks all people blow Wawaria. Speaker, Acting Speaker. Question blomi go long Minister blong. Digital Transformation or Department of Ministry of Information and Communication Technology. Honorable Timothy Masio. Speaker, background name was first question time he come up member of Parliament and me ask him long rural connectivity long side long telecommunications. Now I must 1 year so me like follow up. Now ask him this the same question. Acting Speaker, you may be in this Parliament and passing one act or call him this Digital Transformation Act. Now digital transformation rely on internet connectivity. Now all people blow me long rural plus rural communities all not got access long internet lo participate lo this digital transformation na you mean like building all infrastructure lo communicate infrastructure going to lo rural communities lo me and one expensive na and but taking long time but technology emoglo move fast. Now, all people blame the rural communities, especially all education services and health services, they need to connect to internet. Now, there is a technology available. One tech entrepreneur, I'll call him Elon Musk, the United States, producing one satellite. Now, satellite services belong to connect him. Rural communities go to internet, or call him Starlink. Now it has been accepted by many big and developed nations. My question to the minister is this: when is NICTA allowing Starlink? When will NICTA allow Starlink to operate in PNG? Because it will really benefit the rural communities to participate in digital transformation. Is the minister doing anything to ensure NICTA allows Starlink to come into PNG? Thank you, Acting Speaker. This is my question.
The Honourable Minister for Communication.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Thank you, long question, long honourable member, long Wawaria. Me like to thank you that I still remember him also 1 year ago and he asking me one question. Thank you, Lord Isla. Long make him a question long Starlink, especially Starlink. Me must talk also Starlink new plan. Operator will come inside through long space you may got long digital transformation inside the country belong you me. And as such, time of new plan, line come inside me important long me plan is tell him good. This plan new plan line will come inside because you got plenty kind machine only will come one time. Plenty kind of programs only come one time. Or applications or kind and me plan need long survey whether I conform long regulations belong you inside the country and me behind him law or no God. But Starlink can be providing good plus service. Me to me, I'm a much long. Starlink can come long helping me because it's a struggle for my department long go out long rural areas long now yet because me play rely long. All telco operators from me plan long sanapi more towers so that me can move him. This internet now something also long one electric inside long country belong you me. So now yet this issue I'm seeing now on NICTA now. NICTA am regulator belong you me lo country so only work long look stop long this as minister me no see now nothing na me look tas all me work long still pushing NICTA long giving me answer. I think long this week by that statement by come out long Starlink. Long how by me rolling out Starlink long come inside. You see, we have to be very careful at this age and time when our country is progressing and we move forward. Long all kind something also because plenty long something I mean new plan you me. Na time new plan you me plan mas looking good plan and no good long em. Me plan can throw nothing come inside also you throw my bun na me long old dog. Na bali resist law this plus something. As a responsible government, Mibla must kill him good, so that Mibla give him good plan along this plan. Because if we bring something so cheap, now you may got issues from law and order, problems from Mibla. So me, before me come, me must communicate one time. Minister Blong Ayes na Mibla look how Mibla can deploy Starlink inside the country. So this is a very big concern for me as minister. Because what I want is the best for my people in this country. Or people belong country belong to me. Long got this, the best available service. And not just because something is fast, something is cheaper, and something is good for us, that by Mikisim, we have to have a look at it properly. Now scaling good through na behind by Mibla can put him out long all people. Mibla can talk yes, and we conform the regulations belong to me, long all rules, long criteria. Now one more something and Mibla got inside the country. This plan back in Blomi. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.
Honourable Member for North Fly.
Before me asking Blomi, through you, Chair, me like seeking some clarification. You talk lo Rosim Disabanis here. Me no sawe one time by you Rosim Disabanis lo glass because COVID and finish. I mean not necessary and stop. Yes. So me try lo put him lo record so if you can recall lo commitment lo you lo government. Asking lo me go lo Prime Minister. Mr. Acting Speaker, my series of questions are directed to the good Prime Minister in relation to one of the observations Mr. observed, and this is in relation to key performance indicators or initial KPIs. Mr. Acting Speaker, before I ask these questions, be informed that these questions are not to discredit or undermine the government. These questions are intended to remind our government and bring back on track what we undertook and committed to do for this country. And if I can recall back, through you, Acting Speaker, our good Prime Minister made the indication in 2019 when we took office, and also in this 11th Parliament, that he was going to go by what we call KPIs to assess, to review performance of every department and every ministers respectively. And so, also I want to place on record, Acting Speaker, that I do not intend to discredit our good hardworking ministers or departments or SOEs, for that matter, in terms of asking these questions. Mr. Acting Speaker, I just probably give a definition of what KPI is. According to the Google definition, KPIs, according to the Google definition, is something that is measurable. You can measure and confirm, you can achieve by a timeline. That's how it is. So, the questions that I was going to ask is this. We have come, this government of ours is sitting exactly 12 months or 1 year in office. And the Prime Minister indicated initially that there was going to be a review of everything that we do. And the questions are this. Would the Prime Minister indicate whether we have actually set the KPIs for all our ministers, the SOE departments, or the departments that we have? Would the Prime Minister indicate, is it true it's up for review? That indicate that yes, there will be a review of our performance. And thirdly, is that which department or which body of the government is responsible for measuring all the KPIs and monitoring this? Would he indicate? Number 4th question is, who is measuring us members of Parliament, including myself standing here, including you, the Speaker, and including the Prime Minister? Thank you very much.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Acting Speaker, I like to thank you, Law. Member of Law Not Fly and our Vice Minister, Law, ask him this important question. Let me also acknowledge our students who are here with us, all Pikinini, all Sumatin. Thank you, Ibla, for joining me, Law Public Gallery, and you are listening in through this sitting. Mr. Acting Speaker, a good questions asked by the member for Not Fly. KPI each ministers have been issued to them once upon them being sworn in as a minister. The first cabinet that we had, they all were given what is expected of them, 3 or 4 key result areas, or KPIs rather, that will contribute towards achieving key results for the sectors they are engaged upon or the ministries they are in custody. I want to inform this House, if you look at, for instance, today's paper, you have ministers having reports and statements made to Parliament. This is where the country holds to account the work of the executive government. It is important ministers report to the House, and all of them are expected that on up to 6 months in office for this year, and for the rest of the balance of Parliament sitting this year, ministers are expected to present to the Parliament their work they've done thus far, and the work that they've concluded in the previous work year. So each ministers have been issued KPIs or key performance indicators based on the key results we want achieved in those ministries and those sectors. The third question or second question he asked, which body or department is responsible for the KPIs? For the ministers, Prime Minister's department and myself, I am responsible to ensure ministers are at work doing what they're supposed to do. Prime Minister's department under Chief Secretary's watch is responsible for all departmental heads to ensure they are attending to targets we have issued them. And these targets are not James Marape-based target or just Pangu Party-based targets. This is the collective aspirations of our people embodied when we formed government in the Lolawata camp. When we came together, we all collectively agreed that this is what we want for each department, each sector. And we are at work to ensure the results are achieved. As you see through and listen to all the ministers delivering their ministerial statement, please, in your moment to respond to the statement, you could respond here to hold us to account, or you could either write to the ministers concerned on some areas you feel are not being attended to, or you could also likewise give commendations to those work that are being attended to. So Parliament holds, ultimately for our people, Parliament holds us leaders to account for what we are doing. When we end up in the elections, our people hold us to account for. But in between now and the elections, every year there should be a reporting mechanism to the Parliament for our country to know what the executive government is doing. For you individually as members of Parliament and provincial government, the annual requirement to furnish our work reports, including our financial reports on how our district have worked and our provinces have functioned and work is there for us to comply upon. The PF Public Finance Management Act requires that 31st of March each year, all departments report on how we've been operating. The Public Service Management Act also complies that reports come back to respective departments, and for us operating DSIP and PSIP or the provincial governments, you report back to the DIRD, you report back to and the Auditor General has oversight on those reports. Those reporting mechanisms are there. In the last few years, we've been trying to tidy as far as reporting and compliance issues are concerned. Mr. Acting Speaker, I want to also inform this House that the Public Service Minister will be presenting a report on public service later today. But there is a policy being mooted by government today that we will farm out the audit of public fund used to private audit firms, so that private audit firms also have a view on behalf of the country to know exactly what is happening in our government departments, our sub-national government and our districts as we implement program funds for what is expected for our people. So the reporting mechanisms are in place for the executive government. The ministries are accountable to the Office of the Prime Minister, and the department heads are accountable to the Office of the Chief Secretary. And we are reviewing the KPIs as we go. Our ministers in Cabinet knows exactly how we conduct in Cabinet. I hold them to account. It is expected of them to step up in areas they're coming behind. in I think 2 cabinets from today, there'll be a report on which one of them have submitted work for the expectations that has been placed upon them based on the KPIs that has been issued to them. So I am holding my ministers to account for the work they're doing. The ministers are holding their department heads to account for the works that they're supposed to do, as well as the Chief Secretary assisting the ministers to ensure that their department heads hold to account. All of us have those accountability measures. It's really all about us getting to work. And Mr. Acting Speaker, I want to, through the question, inform the member and all members of Parliament, all governors, that we will not cover complacency amidst us. Whether complacency and inefficiency or non-delivery at the cabinet level or at the department head level, I stand here not willing to cover complacency, and I will not cover complacency at department head level or at the cabinet level. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Karawagi. Kundiawa Kembogol.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week you bypassing all people of Kundiawa Kembogol. This morning time, thank you long. You long all people of Kundiawa Kembogol. All right.
You are recognized, honourable member. Go ahead.
Treasurer. My question is directed to the Treasurer and the Environment Minister and Forest Minister to take note. But before I ask my question, I would like to congratulate the Honourable Prime Minister and his government for bringing one of the world leaders into the country in the last few weeks. Honourable Emmanuel Macron, President of France, where he came and pledged the...
Honourable member, I interrupt you. Your question is directed to
Minister for Treasury. But before I ask, I'd just like to commend Honourable Prime Minister and his government for bringing one of the world leaders into our country in the last few weeks. Emmanuel Macron, France is one of the powerful G7 countries in the world, and him coming into the country is a significant step for the country that elevates our foreign relations in this country. So my commendation goes to Honourable Prime Minister and the government and the public servants behind hosting the President. My question is in relation to the pledge that Emmanuel Macron made to conserve 360,000 hectares of land in the Hora province, Mananglas. He pledged 100 million for the conservation of 360,000 hectares. But on the domestic front, we passed in this year's budget that we will raise 30 million kina as a part of forestry levy to fund conservation activities in this country. So my question to the Treasury Minister is, what is the status of the revenue-raising initiative that we approved to raise in this budget so that we can help our conservation efforts, the Conservation and Environment Protection Authority, forestry, and the landowners of this country to conserve their forest. That will complement the pledge that came from Emmanuel Macron. Thank you.
The Honourable Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the Honourable member for his query. If I could ask him to put it on paper, shoot it to me, and I'll get an updated brief on the status and respond back to this Parliament. Thank you.
The Honourable member for Karawagi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Forgive me the support to speak and look so long, Karawagi. Mr. Speaker, my question without notice is directed to our good Minister for Religious and Youth Affairs. Mr. Deputy Speaker, my question is, we know very well that with due respect to other religions, this country is in fact a Christian nation. Many a times, several evangelical churches in this country are key partners to our development process. They have done extremely well. The churches were there before the government invades in most part of the country. The churches is the strength to the government.
Mr. Acting Speaker, the churches provide in the services like health, education, and many key development in this country. My question to the good minister is, do we have a budget for all these church-run institutions, including seminaries and Bible schools, like CLTC or Martin Luther Seminary or Oglebank Seminary or many other good seminaries in the countries and Bible schools? How is the progressive and current update on the government and church partnership program? Any program in your ministry, Mr. Minister, to assist in this regard? Thank you, Acting Speaker.
The Honourable Minister for Community Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for Kerawagi for the good question that you have raised. Also, I'd like to thank the people of Woon Gulf. It is my first time to stand up here to respond to the question, representing the people of Woon Gulf. Mr. Speaker, from the question from the member for Kerawagi, in the Maraberoso government, yes, we have a budget for that. To your question here, I think in this year budget, 2 weeks ago, we have rolled out a presentation grants to the churches of 5 million to all the churches in the country. And it was the first time that all the denominations have received part of their share. It's a part of the government commitment to support church program in our country. So to the question of the minister, yes, this government of Maraberoso government has a budget for that, and this year we have rolled out so far 5 million to all the churches, and presentation was done and given to all the church leaders in the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Abao.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. My question, without notice, is directed at the hard-working treasurer and a very young-looking member for TVWan. Mr. Acting Speaker, last week, Tuesday, one of our dailies, Post Courier, in page 3, posted a heading that caught my eyes. And that is this one, which says, foreign exchange affects procurement of medicine. The reporter was talking about the increasing prevalence or numbers of TB cases in our country, and therefore the need to make sure that TB drugs are available on time. This report on the last fourth paragraph worried me, and I read, I have written to the Governor of the Central Bank of Papua New Guinea to facilitate fast clearance of foreign exchange for the purchase of TB drugs. That's the Secretary of Health writing to the Governor of the Central Bank. As a former Secretary for Health, I never wrote to the Central Bank Governor asking for this level of support. I think this is a symptom of something very serious with regards to the management of our forex market. I wonder, Mr. Acting Speaker, how many departmental heads or how many small businesses are put on the same queue and therefore waiting for their turn to bring in items from outside to the country. I wonder if the minister could undertake an assessment of how many businesses have closed down because of this forex issue. The reason why I have stood up to ask a question to the Honorable Governor, Minister in the absence of the Governor, because I know that the Minister communicates with the Governor of the Central Bank on a regular basis, is because of my strong belief that the Central Bank key role is to facilitate the effectiveness of the forex market, apart from managing the other monetary policy matters. But for this question, my position as depicted in this report is, and my personal view is, perhaps the management of the forex market has failed, is failing. And had the government not intervened with the increasing of the amount that is released to the central banks from 30 to 100 million, I think we would be much more in trouble by now. Mr. Acting Speaker, my questions, 4 of them are: Honorable Treasurer, would you agree with my view that the central bank has failed in effectively managing the forex market in our country? Do you agree, Mr. Treasurer, that the forex market failure is due to the inefficiency of the central bank and its management? If so, Acting Speaker, would you consider reviewing the tenureship of the board of the central bank? Last question, Acting Speaker. Through you, Honorable Treasurer, could you and the central bank undertake the actions necessary to prevent departmental heads from writing to the governor of the central bank? And on this occasion, as I have quoted on the Post Courier, can your actions make sure that we prevent the shortage of drugs in the country for key diseases like tuberculosis? Thank you, Acting Speaker.
The Honourable Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for Abau for his very detailed questions and his interest with the foreign exchange markets in our country. And I thank him for his ongoing support of the work of the government. And today, likewise, he is also looking healthy and even younger than myself. Mr. Speaker, there's been a lot of discussions about our foreign exchange situation in Papua New Guinea, but from the outset, can I assure everyone in this House that we don't have a foreign exchange problem in our country at this point in time. Many of the problems that we hear relate to other issues. And I say this because our current account balance of foreign exchange at the end of 2022 sat at a little over 30.9 billion kina, compared to 10.7 billion when we took over office 4 years ago. Our balance of payments at the end of 2022 sat at 2.8 billion kina, up from 1.8 billion when we took over 4 years ago. As we all know, the announcement by the acting governor of the bank at the end of December 31st, 2022, our foreign exchange reserves set at a record 14.3 billion kina. So why do we have some of these problems related to the supply of medicines that exist today? Mr. Speaker, clearly these are not related to the availability are not related to the supply of foreign exchange. It's related to, it would appear from the background, related to management issues faced by the Department of Health. Yes, you're correct, my good leader. During your time, our time, there were no need for departmental heads to approach the governor of the bank. And I don't know the full background, and I'm happy to try to ascertain that and report back as to why that was the case. But in relation to the underlying issue of shortage of medicines, as you're aware, all departments provide to Treasury on a monthly basis their requirements. Medicines is one of them, and when we receive those at Treasury and it reaches my office, we prioritize those as we prioritize all core services, including health, education and law and order. So let me have a look at that. As to your specific question, has the central bank failed? I'll ask you to repeat that first question, if you don't mind, Member Fraba. Thank you.
The honourable member.
Basically, the question was, do you agree that if you agree that the forest management has failed, would you agree that the failure has been due to the inefficiency of a central bank board and its management?
Honourable Minister.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. That was the second of one of his 4 questions. For me to answer that question, I need to be fully aware of the full background. For me to comment now whether it's been a failure of the central bank management, I could not comment now until I get a full background as to the circumstances why the Department of Health did not receive the foreign exchange as they allege. On the third question, if that was the case, if it was a case of bad management, would the government continue or consider reviewing the tenure of the current central bank board? Mr. Speaker, those very well supported reforms of the central bank by the Makarei-Marauta government back in the year 2000 ensured that there was sufficient independence given to the central bank. Before those reforms, Mr. Speaker, the Minister for Finance then, there was no Treasury, had both fiscal and monetary policy oversight. Those reforms separated the two, so monetary policy went directly to the central bank. So the central bank today controls and decides on exchange rates, interest rates and so forth, no longer the Minister for Treasury. Today, with some of the issues that we've faced, specifically with Puma, that have created a national security threat, the Central Bank Board have made some decisions which, in the opinion of the government and many, may I suggest, do not support the bottom line of ensuring that our planes must keep flying. Fuel continues to flow through our petrol bowsers, and absolutely critical, the ongoing government services are provided to both public and private sector. When we've had these differences, the Act does not allow the government to step in and make changes to the board, unfortunately. And because of that, the government have had to look at other options to try and push forward what it thinks is the correct decisions to make, and so we declared the state of emergency. So whilst the government of the day continues to have conflict at times with the central bank board. Unfortunately, the Act doesn't allow the government to make direct changes. In relation to the bank board, their terms expire next year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Governor from Midday.
Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I direct my series of questions to the Minister for Internal Security, if he's in Parliament.
The Honourable Minister is present.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Law and order is once again escalating to unprecedented levels in Midday province, with sea piracy, highway armed holdups, and now recently on the rise is violent break and enters and holdups by the gangs of rovers, of young criminals of schools and homes, of the private residents of business houses in the town of Alatau. Seen a number of prominent business managers and also senior people and homeowners, as well as illegal settlements, fall victims to this issue. In our recent Provincial Law and Order Committee meeting, I identified with update from the Provincial Police Commander that the local police capacity in the province is faced with critical manpower and resources issues to effectively attend to law and order issues and complaints from the public. Mr. Deputy Speaker, update from the Provincial Police Commander is a need for more manpower to boost the local police capacity, lack of housing and accommodation and daily operation funds for the police and resources are very limited. The provincial government has on many occasions assisted the police, and many of these are routine activities and will continue to support the police for the sake of our people. However, we can only do so much with the limited funding and resources available to us. Mr. Deputy Speaker, efforts by the provincial government recently has seen a drive also to reach out to our young people to lay down their arms and return to their families and communities, to reinvent their lives with the help of the provincial government and the districts. Therefore, a guns amnesty was requested. To date, I have not received any reply. I call on the Minister for Internal Security and the Commissioner of Police to immediately look into these pressing matters. Mr. Deputy Speaker, my questions to the Minister responsible are: 1. Will the Minister and his Commissioner advise my government and the people of Midday on when Midday Province Police will receive any new police recruitments for Midday Province? 2. When will there be more new police houses built for police personnel in the province and also see regular and increased resources? 3. When will the guns amnesty for Midday Province be approved by the Minister, as early requested this year, to address the rise in gun crimes and also an opportunity to peacefully bring our young people back to our communities and support to rehabilitate them? Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Minister for Internal Security.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And before I do answer the serious questions from the good Governor from Midday, let me just take this opportunity to firstly acknowledge the government of the Marape Rosso government for the intervention of support to my people of Bougainville, and I speak on behalf of both my member for Central and member for South Bougainville, and also for my President, Honourable Ismail Torama, for the immediate support that the government has provided to ensure that my people are safe and we are getting the necessary needs of support, especially at this time of disaster. Thank you. My good Governor, your series of questions is a question that is felt right across our country. We have taken measures to increase our manpower, and as of this week, after rigorous recruitment drive, we finally have the first 200 now going into the Bomana Police Center of Excellence. That is the commitment by the Marape Rosso government in actively addressing the law and order, especially in line with improving our numbers of policemen and women across the country. So the training will take 9 months. 6 months of that training will be in the academy, while 3 months will be on-the-job training. Whilst the first group exits this, or goes into the work experience out in the field, this next batch will be transited into the academy. We are going to push out at least 1,000 each year going forward. That will adequately support our need right across the country. I commend your Law and Order Committee. I commend your PPC. Governor, you have echoed this, and in our discussions, we've talked about how you yourself or provinces can manage your law and order within your spheres of responsibility, and I must commend you. And I thank you for providing that support on the ground. In terms of the housing, again, this is a challenge that we've had over a very long period, that we've not been able to provide appropriate support, and that's why we are seeing neglect and not enough infrastructure support. So what I have started to initiate is a infrastructure 5-year master plan, and that will be activated. Hopefully I can present that in our next parliament on how we're going to progress the intervention of improving, firstly maintaining our facilities, but also expanding on our current facilities on the need-by-need basis of all our provinces. So that will address that need for infrastructure support or housing for our men and women in the force. And your number 3 question regarding your guns amnesty, Governor, I will ensure that I will get back to you on the status of where we are at with your amnesty. Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Governor for Morobe.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Asking Minusaulo Stablo talks our paper. Wami Sarim go Ken long Minister of Internal Security. Reason why by me asking you this last scheme, Mr. Minister, I'm gold Sam. Double week go finish or land long Poimo House Carabus or Calabus or wait court Calabus one time or prisoner Calabus one time Commander Blong Calabus only warmly welcome inviting me long go Lotto one time all low place Calabus. Now me Lotto one time all now me communion one time all. Na bian longen oli soim mi house Calabus, Mr. Acting Speaker. Condition belong house Calabus. Na oli soim mi one big play every belong all, and this is a water pipe, and a metal water pipe, iron pipe. That is why now this iron pipe is started plenty years ago finished. Now me rust inside, now outside. So when we bring water, come inside long. All Calabus, wet court, na Calabus line want them all water. This is water, and me no good water because I mean mix one time iron, and me rust iron. Now plenty all Calabus man all kiss him big plus sick inside na sick long skin belong all. Now I mean some like me die finish. Now some like walk kiss him this pain and start long scarab. Pen plus scarab plus skin blow all. Mr. Minister, this plan one sick now, we mo Carabusi face him. Not a pla long all accommodation, it long all Calabus, and me no good orgata, Carabusi is in time. One kind of them all water too, no sleep good because house me broken about. Now what am I explaining finish? That is why I mean needing attention belong Ministry of you. One time all officers from Ministry of you. Mr. Acting Speaker, lawless country, and we talk clear to us Section 37 belong Papua New Guinea Constitution.
And it clear to us all man freedom belong all, law I kalabusem all. This play online, me play must look at him all good. Even better than old man, only enjoying freedom in his stop. That is why, Mr. Minister, now, me like asking you now long assuring me, assuring online long boimo, place kalabus, want them online is stop long have. Now long country, through the parliament belongs to the country. When them steps now where you take him, long sarim or some sarim officers you go long. This flowers carabus, now look. Long this flowers carabus. Now this little question now me asking you, second sense now we put him on you, am it true? Or at what steps you going to do to by fixing this something, Mr. Minister? Me ask him this question he come on you, because you rightful man, Minister belong deal with this flab. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.
Honorable Minister for Internal Security.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Lo. Good question. Ikam long, Honorable Governor Bluyumilo Morobe. Governor, ask him Bluyu. Me firstly, talk thank you long. Passing you walk him, long showing presence Bluyu, long all reminders Bluyu me start to stop inside lo karabus. Long stop on them all na share him word of God, me acknowledge him leadership blow you. Secondly, Governor, buimo him stop on it long projected financial support long help him revamp him this la Karabus infrastructure blow you me. So Treasurer blow you me was kind enough long helping me long releasing money comes so by me ensure him this la money me go down na you me can help him improve him this la facility. Me can assure him you you stop inside long this la priority blow this la year. Secondly, me like talk thank you to so long. Acknowledge him osem he got health issue. Na suppose he got opportunity within government belong you too. Me like ask him back to you. Ask him all health department below you me. Suppose all he can extend him assistance belong all to ensure all Karabus below you me too is stop good. But I can assure you, good governor, legally money him come down pinis so by you me help him improve him this infrastructure facility below me lombuimo. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Honourable members, our question time had lapsed. Ministerial statement. Minister for Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to make a statement regarding my ministry. Before I proceed, I acknowledge the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, my fellow ministers, the Leader of Opposition, and the Members of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, as Minister responsible of Justice, I wish to thank the Marabe Rosso government for supporting the law and justice sector with a significant increase in its budget for 2023. In the words of our good treasurer, the government allocated an extra 401 million for law and justice sector. The largest increase in funding in PNG's history, which is an increase by 30% or 28.9%. This in itself sends a strong message that the government of the day is committed to ensuring community safety, peace, and justice throughout the country. To ensure that this is being translated into tangible activities and projects, I submitted 16 main key result areas to the Prime Minister. I am pleased to announce that the Prime Minister has endorsed my key result areas, and I am already underway in implementing most of them.
Mr. Speaker, the Department of Justice and Attorney General and the State Solicitor directly involved in providing legal advice and cleared the defense cooperation between